Although I believe Mike DeCourcy in his bracket for Fox has the Tigers as a 6. Lenardi, a 7. Brian, where does Jerry Palm have him?
I believe Jerry Palm also has him as a 7.
So there's the 2 best-known bracketologists, even though I think DeCourcy's the best. He's got him as a 6. The others have him as a 7. So there you don't. Now you're in danger of one more loss, and you're in the 8-9 game, right? One more loss. Win out, maybe now you can get to a 6. You're not getting to a 5, probably.
Yeah, Palm has him as a 7.
Yeah, there you go. One loss. One loss in overtime on the road after you beat another team on the road by 15, and you slip 8 spots. Purdue, 7 losses on the year, loses twice and slips 6 spots. It's just the way that it is. This was heartwarming. 3 Hustle players were in the G League All-Star game. One was a sensation. So Armando Bacot, who is the greatest rebounder in the history of North Carolina. Think about that for a second. This is how tough it is to be an NBA guy. It's like that in every league, though, right? The difference between AAA and Major League, some guys can be great AAA players. There's just something not there. PGA Tour. Some guys, excellent on the tour that's right below, which has had so many different names over the years. Get to the big time, and the majority of them don't make it. There's a difference. Playing every week against the best. Usually it's a mental thing. And I don't know. Bacot's the greatest of all time when it comes to rebounding at North Carolina. Now, he stuck around for all the 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
His team, by the way, was the winner of the G League All-Star game.
Yeah. There was a story about Armando Bacot. I can't remember who did it. It might have been Jonah Dillon who wrote about it, where he is completely changing his game because, at North Carolina, like you mentioned, rebounder, right, paint player, post guy for them. But he's kind of, a tweener, not super big. And so now he's trying to be a three-point shooting threat and thinking that if he can add that to his game, that's what would get the call from these NBA teams.
Look at Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Same thing with Zach Edey.
Exactly.
Zach Edey's taking threes. Everybody in the NBA takes threes.
That's right.
Then you get some guys like Jay Huff. Is he 7 feet tall?
He's got to be, yeah.
I think he is. He takes more threes than he does point attempts in the paint.
7-1. How about that?
How about, yeah. So, there's another guy, and I got to be honest with you. I never heard of this guy until I was reading the story. Because I have not been to a Hustle game since 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. And I went right after the show one time, and it was all kids. It was their grammar school thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, oh, my God, I don't want to do this again.
Oh, man.
And then I'm too busy at nights, usually with other games, so I haven't been to one since. But do you know who Menzina Pereira is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's the Brazilian high flyer, right?
Yeah, he's been with the team. I think he was with them last year, maybe.
Oh, is that
and
right?
now with them again this year.
Well, I got to be honest with you.
Because I know that name. That name's familiar to me. Yeah. I went to one game last year. I went and saw Ignite come through because I went to see Matas Buzelis. And I don't know. He did play, but Ron Holland didn't play. I went to see both those guys. One played. The other did.
Does anybody go to those games?
Not really. I want to be respectful to the hustle, but not really.
Okay. Well, anyway, I feel bad. I wouldn't mind going.
It's fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it when I went.
This guy apparently can really leap, and he was the recipient of the guy who stole the show. He seems to steal the show wherever he goes, even in limited time, and that is Yuki Kawamura, who, of course, is Is he a two-way guy officially? He's got to be in order to play in as many NBA games as he is.
Yeah, they added him to the two-way when they signed Jay Huff, maybe? When they signed one of those guys, they put him on the two-way.
So he had some dazzling passes, they say, to Pereira. I don't know if Pereira was the recipient, but apparently the best play of the whole night was from mid-court, an underhand lob that was finished, and that came from Kawamura. I wonder how many Japanese press people were there to watch the G League
ton.
All-Star game. I'll bet that was the case for sure. So, anyway, congratulations to that trio, and it makes me say to myself, before this year is out,
Gotta get down
I'm
there.
going to go and watch them play at the Landers Center. And Tiger Woods returns to golf tonight in the TGL. We have not spoken with our friend Doug Bell, who is a busy guy. Doug, who came up with me early on, years and years ago at ESPN. We were both ascending at the same time period.
Yeah.
He's been with Sirius PGA Tour Radio, I don't know how many years now. We'll ask him. Been around a long time. And he's going to join us to talk all things golf. That'll be a lot of fun. That'll come your way at 10:25, as we have now sort of separated ourselves for a little while from the NFL. And Doug Bell's going to take over tomorrow, I should say next week. Tim Doolin will talk baseball with us on a weekly basis in that time slot. And then in our final segment of this show, Bob Kessling will join us. We'll talk Bruce Pearl, 1 versus 2, the SEC race, and a whole lot more. By the way, I want to ask, have you seen the Micah Shrewsbury clip?
Yeah. He's fired up.
You know, I if you're 5-9 in the ACC, you're at the bottom. You're 11-14. You're the Notre Dame head coach. You are 3 games under 500 on the year. You would think you would be going gently, reminding everybody, I took over the program. I'm going to build it. Have faith there. He's starting to just raise his voice and go crazy and smash the microphone. I did not think that was a good look for Notre Dame.
Yeah, it was weird because I really like Micah Shrewsbury. I think he's a fantastic coach. And he's really, he's always been like this calm, cool, collected guy. Like you've never seen an outburst like this from him. And so I didn't watch the game. I'll be completely honest. I didn't watch the game Sunday night. But then seeing that on social media, just his outburst, there's got to be some stuff going on in the background. I don't think, and I was reading some tweets and some stories after this happened, it doesn't feel like he's on the hot seat. It feels like
I don't think he is
Notre
either.
Dame is giving him plenty of time. So I don't know where this came from.
I think he's just frustrated, and part of it is the fan base is going the other way with him.
Yeah.
So he may not be in the hot seat from his bosses,
sure,
but now there's apathy from
happy.
fans, and the giveaway on that was in that tirade. He mentions there were more Louisville fans than Notre Dame fans in Notre Dame's house.
Well, hard to blame Louisville. They haven't had anything to root for the last 2 years, and so now they have a team that's actually good, and so they just want to go everywhere to support this team.
I just think I've never understood coaches. If you're down, that's when you've got to sort of
rally the
troops. I'm not saying beg for mercy, but kind of be classy and just say, hey, guys, we're going to get this done. We've done it here. We've done it here. I promise you, we'll get it. To have to threaten people, you quit me now, don't you come back ever.
It's crazy.
I just – and like you say, he's been a classy guy. That was not a classy look at all whatsoever. I'll tell you what was classy. Was listening on my way in to Greg Gaston and Chris Douglas Roberts, who, along with Reggie Howard, is going into the M Club Hall of Fame on Saturday.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic. It's going to be a great night. Chris Douglas Roberts, truth be known, of all the athletes that I have interviewed as college athletes. Now, things change when they become older and wiser and become more articulate, whatever it may be. That gift of communication and articulation was always possessed by Chris Douglas Roberts. I said this to Greg because I loved his interview, and I know it. He told me he went 40 minutes with him. I just heard the end of it. But Chris was my favorite interview of all time, of all college athletes. And I've had plenty of good ones.
Yeah.
Elliot Perry was good. Penny Hardaway was a good interview. Lorenzen Wright was a really good interview. We've had plenty of quarterbacks who were pretty good interviews. I think at the end of his career, Seth Hennigan was a pretty good interview. Brady White was a pretty good interview. Danny Wimprine was a
love
great
Danny
interview.
Wimprine.
The second guy, my second favorite interview, D'Angelo Williams. He was a great interview as a guy because, he was always giving a little baloney to his coach. He would say, Coach, you got to let me throw the football. So we've had some great ones, but I think my favorite all-time interview, Chris Douglas Roberts, so he's going into the Hall on Saturday. That was a nice piece. Oh, Canada!
Yes.
Oh, Canada. They beat Finland.
Sure did.
Now you got it all set up. And, this begs the question, because you and I, we talked yesterday how the NBA ought to look to see what the NHL has done. Now, I don't know that you would break it up into 4 different teams like Spain, France. I don't think you do that too, but I think you could do internationals against USA. I really believe that's the way they should go. I said that a few years ago when the game became horrible.
Yeah.
But they really are playing so hard to the point where injuries occur.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
So there is a fine line here. I'm not sure what it is. I want a competitive all-star game. I go back to Pete Rose knocking and really ending kind of the career of Ray Fosse. Now, I don't want that to happen, but I want to see guys care, and I don't know how you get players who now generations have passed where the all-star game is not to be played hard, at least in the NBA. I don't think in baseball it's played as hard as it used to be. I just think this new group that's come up with all the developmental AAU stuff that has occurred, that Connie Mack baseball, whatever the traveling, all these travel teams that are competitive.
Oh, yeah.
They play 2 or 3 games in a week, and they just kind of showcase themselves, and losing doesn't matter. So there's a whole different mindset about these kinds of things. Hockey's got it right. You know that Canada and the USA, we already saw all those fights in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
You know that game Thursday in Boston. That game's for real.
Electric.
They're not messing around. That game is going to mean something.
Yep.
I love that.
Well, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Like, you have guys that have been in Stanley Cup finals saying, this is the biggest game of my life.
Which I can't believe.
It's crazy. I mean, that's insane. And whether it's true or not, I mean, that just shows how hard you got. And I've heard so many people, because it feels like since, especially that Canada-USA game, that so many people are trying to say, hey, NBA, you got to figure something out. You've got to do something similar to what NHL has done. And the pushback I hear is that there aren't enough all-stars that are, international or United States or whatever, especially if you want to do the tournament format. There's not enough all-stars to make the different teams. But that's not what NHL is doing. They completely disregarded their all-star game. These are not all-stars. Capo Kakko is playing for Finland. He's nowhere near an NHL all-star.
Right.
But they just decided we want to have this tournament.
That's because they went 4 countries.
Exactly.
If you went their international,
just international versus USA guys,
Canadian or American-born guys,
you'd have it.
Besides the Kachuks,
yeah.
how many great Americans are there?
Oh man,
I'm sure there's some.
Oh yeah. I mean, Austin
Matthews.
I mean, that first probably 2 lines are all stars, but after that, I mean,
well, that's really all you need.
Yeah, third and fourth line, you don't really have.
Right.
I wouldn't say those are all stars, but
so you probably could do that.
Sure.
I'm not sure that the internationals wouldn't beat the Americans.
Sure.
In this day and age, if you did the NBA that way.
They certainly could, yeah.
But I Canada doesn't have a right. But didn't somebody, one of the 4 countries, have an NHL All-Star that got hurt that might be out for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was.
I don't either. So that's the fine line.
I know Brady Tkachuk got injured last night. He collided with the goal and had to leave the game.
He's not out for the year,
He's not out
is
for
he?
No, he's going to be fine. But still, I mean, you talk about the injury concern and seeing a guy go out like that. But I think you're right. I think someone did suffer a season-ending injury.
The agent for Caitlin Clark came out and said something yesterday that is so absolutely on the money. Do you know how much Caitlin Clark makes from the WNBA?
It's not a lot. I don't know.
She's on a rookie contract. What do you think it would be?
I have no clue. I'm not good with money, Dave. I don't know. I have no clue. Throw it at me.
She's making $78,000
Oh, wow.
from the WNBA.
Holy cow.
78 grand.
Ugh.
And he said this. He said the WNBA can't afford to pay what Caitlin Clark is worth to the league. And
Well,
that agent is spot on.
Yeah, he is.
Because the difference, and Joe Dank, who will be with us tomorrow with his weekly business segment, he pointed out, you look at TV ratings in games with her and not with her,
Oh, yeah.
particularly regular season games, like it's crazy. You look at the league, because they started making a little money and attendance went up, in particular in her games, they could afford charters. They never chartered before. So now they're chartering. I mean, the league owes her a lot. And what she brings with eyeballs in arenas and on TV, they couldn't afford to pay her. Now she's making that money. How many different endorsements she's got? I know she's got she's got a shoe.
She does. She's got State Farm.
She's got Gatorade. She's got State
Gatorade.
Farm.
She's got a lot.
She got a credit card company.
I'm sure.
I just don't remember.
Sure she
Anyway,
does.
she's making probably $20-25 million a year in sponsorship.
Yeah.
So she's doing nicely in that regard. But do you know that rival league they started that she didn't want to participate in? I guess it's what is it called?
Unrivaled. I think.
Unrivaled.
Yeah.
Do you know what they pay those people?
I think it's decent money,
It's
right?
like $220,000.
Yeah.
It's almost triple what she's
Wow,
making
that's
with
really
a rookie
good.
contract.
Yeah.
Now, I do think if you're a veteran at the all-star level in the WNBA, you're making several $100,000.
Yeah.
I forget what it is. I saw that number. Might have been 400, somewhere close, something like that. If you can find that real quick, you're brilliant. But I honestly, $78,000, it made me go crazy. And I haven't seen it yet, but you know there's a new HBO documentary out. It I think debuted yesterday because I got a text from a guy who was asking about it, and I actually asked Penny a little bit about it because Penny is one of the major narrators of this particular documentary.
I didn't know that.
He and Chris Webber, I think, are the main two guys.
Yeah, I believe it did debut last night.
It is called We Beat the Dream Team. So Penny, Chris Webber, Bobby Hurley, those are at least three of the guys that I know.
Wow, okay.
So that team was invited to tune up the Dream Team on their way to play in the Olympics when Penny was, I think it was between when he left college and his rookie year in the NBA. And so Shaq must have been on that team too. Anyway, there's a great story about how Bird was in this car that picked up from the airport Chris Webber to go to the hotel because they were going to play the next day. And Bird, is pretty sullen, silent kind of a guy, didn't say a word until he basically dropped him off. And as the door opens, Bird says to him, better get your rest because I'm going to beat the holy you-know-what out of you tomorrow. I guess there's a bunch of those kinds of stories.
Man,
so
I believe it.
It's on HBO. You can stream it on Max if you have HBO. I got to watch that because I know Penny said. And they did. They actually beat the Dream Team.
Sure did. Yeah, I didn't know Penny was a part of the show though. So that's awesome.
He's a big part of it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch that.
I've seen the promo with him on it.
Yeah.
And then I haven't seen it, so I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty positive he's a big part of the storytelling on all.
I have that WNBA, so a vet supermax in the WNBA, $241,000.
I had the dyslexically. I thought it was like 420. It's 240.
Yeah,
wow,
240. And that's why you're seeing a lot of vets in this unrivaled league. I mean, Brianna Stewart's over there.
Well, why
Sabrina
wouldn't
Ionescu.
you? If you can make 220 playing 3-on-3 basketball
for sure.
for a couple of months, as opposed to playing the whole year and playoffs and all the rigmarole, you're making the same amount of money. Now you've doubled your income. And it looks like this Unrivaled thing is more funsies than anything else.
Aaliyah Boston over there, I think, as well, too. So, I mean, it's a bunch of big names over there.
Yeah. Why wouldn't Caitlin Clark, let me tell you, 3-on-3, with the way that whole court is set up, it's weird. And you would think three-point shooting would be pretty valuable. I think she would be major in that.
Yeah.
And, they'd pay her whatever the top dollar is. I would be surprised if she wasn't in there. She's had a long rest now. It's not like she'd be hard-pressed going from right from college into your league games and playoffs, and then you would play again. I think that's why she opted out. And I don't blame her for not partaking in the three-point shooting contest. They wanted her. And she goes, the first time I participate in that, I wanted to be in the WNBA. There's so much I actually admire about Caitlin Clark. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we did mention Doug Bell from PGA Tour Radio. He's going to join us here in a second as we sit in the Family Leisure Studios. And a reminder to you, the preseason pool and patio sale is in full swing. It's been there for a couple weeks, and they're killing it, folks. With spring right around the corner, although that's pretty hard to believe with reports of snow coming your way this afternoon. It is. Start thinking about your backyard entertainment, and you can get 2024 pricing on all the above ground pools and all the newest patio furniture. And I got to tell you something about my guys at Family Leisure. When I talk patio furniture, I'm talking state-of-the-art, top of the line in construction, top of the line in materials. This is the best. Same way with their pool tables and all the foosball, everything else. It's all high quality. And you can get 2024 pricing on all of that stuff. And, by the way, beat the rush. Get in line for your pool installation. So when spring does arrive, you are ready to go. Just drop by, tell them we said hello. Oh, by the way, mention us, and you get a $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or a patio furniture purchase. Just say Sports 56, and you're in. We take the break. When we come back, we'll head to Birmingham. I think that's where Doug is. He could be on his way to Mexico because that's where the PGA Tour is this week. And we talk to Doug Bell in just a moment.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
Everybody, the new Silverado deal of the year, maybe the decade, is here in Olive Branch at All-Star Chevrolet, where all the Silverados are. Yes, you can get financing down to 2.9, plus make no payments for 90 days. Finance your new Blazer, 1.9, no payments for 90 days. Look, it's still Love Month, so come get a new Silverado or Blazer. You will love no payments till May, and your good credit deserves it. If you're law enforcement, first responders, healthcare, military, education, recent grad, you get an extra $500 bonus. And if you're looking for certified Silverado Tahoe Suburbans, they're right here at All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch. Every pre-owned you want, Fords, Hondas, Hyundais, dozens of Silverados, they're all here. And if you have any vehicle you want to sell, bring it here to All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch and get the most money for it today. Together, let's drive. AllStarAutoGroup.com.
Whether you're teeing off or heading into the office or kicking back to watch the big game, Travis Matthew has you covered. Their versatile, high-quality apparel seamlessly combines style and comfort, making you look and feel your best wherever life takes you.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? We have it covered at Humminger's. It's quick, it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humminger's, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humminger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
races in the TGL yesterday. Boy, they started a lot earlier than I thought they were going
It
to
was
start.
like noon or 1 o'clock, something like
No,
that.
I thought you told me they started at 6. I missed all the darn thing.
Yeah, no triple header yesterday.
Triple header. I wonder how long it'll be before PGA Tour Radio
I hope Doug's
gets-
enjoying the TGL
gets
like I
involved
am.
with the TGL. Well, let's find out. I guess I don't know if we're heading to Birmingham or are we headed to Mexico. But longtime PGA Tour Radio host, play-by-play extraordinaire Doug Bell joins us now. Where are you, Doug?
Dave, I'm like you. I have microphone will travel.
There you go.
I'm not in Mexico, although that's a nice trip. But I'm at home in Alabama for a week, and then I'll be heading down to Florida for the Florida Swing, which starts next week down at PGA National. So this is kind of that weird off week. It used to go from California to Doral, and then many years ago, when President Trump was initially running for president, the PGA Tour took the tournament away. And it's funny, guys, because now it could be coming back. As you know,
Right.
President Trump's in the middle of these negotiations.
So how do you think, just in reference here, the Live Tour, which this deal has been in the works for, 2.5 years now. Like, they
Yeah.
can't seem to get it done. So, I was surprised, but the tour commissioner, I think Rory McIlroy was involved, they literally went to see President Trump to become the deal maker in all of this. What kind of progress are they making? What are you hearing, Doug Bell?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview with Tiger with Jim Nance on CBS on Sunday when he showed up. You know, it was his tournament. He awarded the championship trophy, et cetera. He said negotiations are getting close. He told Jim Nance that. Jim said, "Are we expecting something at the end of this year or maybe next year?" And Tiger said, "Yes and yes." And I do believe, guys, and this is my take, and I'm out there all the time. You talk to everybody, Dave, as you know, in the basketball world. You run across people. People have their opinion about everything, but I do believe we're on the verge of consolidation, if that's the right word. Live. Regardless of what Scott O'Neill, the new CEO, said in Adelaide, Australia last week, that it's the greatest thing ever in professional golf. It is not. We know that. We know. Remember the USFL compared to the NFL? Everybody talked about how great that was, and it wasn't. And ironically, Donald Trump was in the midst of those negotiations too, in the New Jersey Generals. But I think we're going to have the two entities, the two tours, if you will come together, and we're going to have crossover play. I think it could happen by the end of this season in some capacity, but I think realistically in 2026 we'll have crossover play, and the guys who still have contracts on Live will be given the opportunity to play certain events on the PGA Tour, which I think will ultimately be the signature events. And then and I think vice versa, the PGA Tour players, if they want to, will be given the opportunity to play on the Live Tour. And I think the schedule is going to change, guys. I think what we'll have in the fall, which is now, the PGA Tour Fall Series, which will continue in some capacity, but I think we'll have some big events in the fall at places all over the globe, which will involve some of the bigger names. Rory and Scheffler playing with Rahm DeChambeau and people like that.
All right. I'm almost shocked that they would be allowed to play in each other's events.
I know.
Because it was a lifetime ban, right? Wasn't that what was originally the threat?
There were some bold statements, right?
So that would be incredible. Do you think Liv will go to 72 holes, or will they stay, because their moniker, LIV, is Roman numerals for 54? What are they going to do with that? Because they aren't getting OWGR rankings with 54 holes.
Yeah, and amazingly, John Rahm is now outside the top 50 in the world rankings. Think about that.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. But at the same time, as you just mentioned, they don't get world ranking points playing these 54-hole events, which in essence, the world ranking people are saying they're just exhibitions. They're not legitimate events. Even though the U.S. Open now says they'll recognize the top 10 players on Live who aren't already exempt in the U.S. Open. So that was, you can see things falling into place, guys.
Right.
And I think, listen, the bottom line is Liv has so much money, they're not going anywhere. They're not going away. And so the PGA Tour has recognized that, and now you have Tiger, who still is the number one guy as far as name recognition, moving the needle, even though he doesn't play much, if at all. But he's still the guy, and he's right in the middle of those negotiations. And Rory's involved. Obviously, Adam Scott is now in that small circle of people. President Trump's involved, and now that there's a new head of the Department of Justice, they'll be a little more apt to negotiate things with the Saudis. And so everything is falling into place, and I think it's, as Tiger said on CBS Sunday, it's good for the game. That's what they want to do. They resolve issues. At the same time, you do have some players on the PGA Tour who aren't on board. They feel that, all these guys left for mega money. Why are you going to allow them to come back without any sort of penalty? But I think, as Rory has said 2 weeks ago, he said that's just the way it is. Times have changed. 3 years ago, he felt differently. Now he feels that the best players should be playing more than just the 4 major championships. And I think that's ultimately what they want, guys. The elite players, the superstars, there's so much money on the table that they want to play those elite events, small fields. And unfortunately, I remember being in Bermuda in the fall. Rafa Campos, this little-known player from Puerto Rico, came out of nowhere to win and changed his life. 2-year exemption. He's in the signature events.
Right.
He had no status, guys, and then he wins. Unfortunately, we're going to lose those stories. And so I guess is that progress? Some people say, yeah, it's just the way it goes. But I tend to like the guys who beat the odds, who beat the big names. But unfortunately, I think as we move forward, especially in 2026, we're not going to have many of those stories anymore.
I'm with you. I guess we'll see more of the bigger names because the big money will be at least 2 times a month out there during the main thing, and then you'll get them all at the majors. But I don't love this thing. Here's what I want to know: what will a guy like Phil Mickelson end up with as in terms of reception? Will he now be allowed to play in the senior tour? Because I think he's over it as being a threat to win big events. Age catches up with everybody. Would he be allowed to become an announcer on a PGA Tour network? Because I thought that's where he was headed. What do you think the reception would be for a guy like that? Who, look, other than Greg Norman, he was probably the biggest name at the beginning that started the LIV revolution.
What a great question, Dave. And I hadn't really even thought about that. Although it was funny, when Scott O'Neill, the new CEO of LIV in Adelaide, Australia, proclaimed that LIV was the best tour, we have the best players, and he mentioned some names, including Phil Mickelson, right? Now, I kind of laughed. I was like, Phil no longer is one of the great players in the world. In fact, if you look at his scores on LIV, he has trouble breaking par now. So, his game is in the rearview mirror. But would he be welcome back? I think he would be, Dave. I think everybody, you hate that tri-state, let bygones be bygones, because a lot of pretty terrible things were said on both sides, hard feelings. But again, here's the bottom line, guys. And this kind of shocked me last week when Rory, in his press conference, came out and he talked about, he goes, have you looked at the amount of money that I won last year compared to what I won 4 years ago? And, we always talk, these guys are all about championships, right? Money is irrelevant. It is not. These guys, it's all about money. That's what it is. And if somewhere along the way you win a green jacket or you win a U.S. Open, then you're going to make more money. But that really startled me, guys, to hear one of the elite players, he's ranked 3 in the world. And he's talking about how much difference the money is now compared to was 3 years ago, all because of LIV. And so I was taken aback by that. But that's the bottom line, guys. Listen, And listen, I think a guy like Scotty Scheffler still isn't. You know, last year he won what, $70 million on the course.
Right.
I still think he wants to win more. He wants to win more majors.
Well, he needs
increasingly.
to. He's only won 2, and they're all at the same place. I mean, honestly, and I think he will. I'm not saying he won't, but I think if you really want to, in terms of credibility and legacy in the long run, you got to win at more than one venue in a major, and he's only won at Augusta. He's going to have to win a U.S. Open or some RNA rotation British Open to really go. I'm the best right now.
Agreed, and he is the best. And other than getting arrested last year, what kind of messed him up at the PGA Championship on that Saturday. And at the U.S. Open, he ran out of gas. He won Jack's tournament the week before. And as he said, he's never going to play a big-time event the week before a major anymore. But, I mean, he was right there. And he was right there on Sunday at the Open Championship. But, yeah, and this is his window of opportunity. And I think he realizes that. And he's probably, good to go for the next 5 years. We'll contend for, there's 20 over the next 5 years. I think he's certainly going to get his fair share, which might be 2 or 3 more. And Dave, it's interesting this day and age. And I was talking about this the other day on a show. The competition, and you're talking about LIV versus the PGA Tour, but on the PGA Tour, listen, all these guys do the same workouts. They have the same trainers. They have the same golf balls. It may have a different name on it. Basically, the same golf ball.
Yeah.
Same equipment, even though it has a different name on it. Same shafts. They all hit at the same distance. And the competition is so keen because these guys come out from college and they're ready to rock and roll, man. And so it's more difficult now than it has ever been in the history of the game to win major championships because you're at hard venues and everybody's hitting the same ball, same clubs, same everything, right? So the elite, like Scotty Scheffler, he's better than anybody else. And he, as you said, Dave, he's won 2. He's going to win some more. Rory hasn't won the Masters. Will he ever? I don't think so. I don't think he putts good on those super fast greens. So, I don't know. I just think the age of, double-digit major championships, winning the Grand Slam, it's virtually impossible now.
I was just going to say,
modern age.
so there'll never be even a Tiger Slam, calendar year Grand Slam. We'll never see that again.
No, and that's it's interesting. Jack and Tiger are the 2 greatest of all time, right?
Yes.
And it's 18, 15, whatever. And you can count their amateur wins too. I mean, Tiger's got a bunch of those, and so does Jack.
Jack's got more.
Yeah, Jack's got more, but nobody will. And Koepka is the one guy. He's got 5, but he needs 5 more to get to double digits. And again, that's the other conversation. I believe, this is my opinion. People disagree with me. I think the guys that are on LIV lose their competitive edge, and I think Rahm has.
I agree.
Rahm is making. Nobody knows exactly how much they're paying him, but it's somewhere in the range of $300 to $400 million. I mean, he's making NFL quarterback money. I just don't think. You have a house in Spain, you have a house in Arizona, you have a house in Sweden, you have 3 little kids, you have a beautiful wife. I mean, you just don't. I just don't think you practice. You're not as tough as you used to be competitively. That's my opinion. And people will say, well, gosh, DeChambeau won last year. Well, that was an amazing tournament. He gouged out in the rough Saturday and Sunday and hit that amazing shot at 18, and he's a talented guy. Good for him. Is he going to do it again? He has 2 U.S. Opens. I don't know. We'll see. Koepka, he came out, and he was the 54-hole leader at the Masters when he went to LIV. And then Rahm beat him on that Sunday, but he hasn't done anything in the major since then. So that's just my opinion. I think the guys on LIV, they got it good. They made that decision. I just think it takes away. They're not playing in all these events these other guys are. But, Dave, as we started the conversation, maybe if they're back in the fold playing some of these tough events, maybe they'll get that competitive edge back.
But I think the lesson I've learned in this show today, of course, I've been doing it for a long time, but the bottom line is the bottom line. I don't care how rich you are, always trace the money because that's going to be the motivator. It is even with Rory, who appears to be back. And as you said, now those guys like Rahm, he's generationally, like 5 generations maybe wealthy. He's never going to worry about it before, but I don't know about his legacy. If they're allowed to come back, maybe so. Doug, I could talk to you all the time. We need to do this more often. This was great, but I'm out of time, unfortunately.
All right. Well, anytime, just give me a call, Dave. I'll be around. And,
Thank you.
know, you got my number. All right, buddy. See
Safe
ya.
travels to you. By the way,
Thanks,
I never knew this. I didn't know you give golf lessons, too.
I do. And usually it's younger people who pay attention to me.
Oh, no, because I was going to try to get a freebie out of you.
Oh, come on, Dave. You're a young guy. Come on. I'll give you a free one.
There you go.
I'll help you.
I appreciate
I'll
it.
straighten out your tee shot. That's all you want to do.
There you go. Thank you,
All
Doug.
right, buddy. Bye.
That's our guy, Doug Bell from Sirius PGA Tour Radio. We got to take a break. We got to head to see our friend in Knoxville. That's the voice of the Vols. That's Bob Kessling, and he comes your way next.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join John Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wolo said hello.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it! Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
All 650 acquisition fee, 20,000 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage. Pay for SEO 233118, MSRP 25320, Telluride SG 596204, MSRP 41060, Sportage S719 2005, MSRP 30660. Includes all rebates and incentives. Must finance through KFA. Excludes top final license 895 PF with approved credit. Dealer stock only. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 3/2/2025.
It's the Kia President's Day sales event on now at Gossett Kia South Mount Moriah. Hey, what's up, Jeff Allen?
Randy, I've got a 2025 Kia K4 LXS for less than $5 a day at $159 a month with class-leading torque and fuel efficiency. 2025 Kia Telluride has front-wheel drive with more power, larger cargo area, and more ground clearance than a Nissan Pathfinder. $398 a month. Plus a 2025 Sportage EX, better overall customer rating than a Toyota RAV4 and longer warranty per Edmunds.com at $279 a month.
All $49.99 to signing 24-month lease. Plus, get a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
Welcome back in as we wind our way through our Tuesday. Bob Kessling, trying to connect with him in Knoxville. Sports Time Wolo and Friends, brought to you by the good folks Ken Garland. There's a third generation now. You had Ken Sr., then Ken Jr. Now Williams in the fold, all with that same mindset. About 80 years of building beautiful palaces all around the Memphis area. Tri-state area, they've had a beautiful home built somewhere, I promise you. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be construction from the beginning. It could be a redo, renovation with innovation is what I like to call it. You want the California closet, you want that big island in the kitchen, you want the media room with the wires, wireless, I should say. The wires are really in the wall. Or you could go Bluetooth. He's got it all. He understands everything. And if you're looking for land, he's got it. If you're not sure how to utilize it, 3 generations of wisdom. And the job's never totally complete. 6 months, 8 months after you're through, a year, and you've built this house and something's not correct, he's back. The job's never totally done in his mind. He's always there with you. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Go to kengarland.com. Bob Kessling joins us now in Knoxville. Vols were winners this week in comeback fashion over Vandy. A lot of good games on Saturday. Mississippi State swept Ole Miss. I think that was a bit of a surprise to a bunch of folks. But the big game was Auburn and Alabama, and I thought Auburn dominated the game. Bob, you were able to work for several years with Bruce Pearl. He's now become, there's only a list of like 5 or 6. They're all unbelievable coaches, including the great John Wooden, that have won multiple 1 versus 2. You and I were part of the very first one in 2008 when your Vols beat my Tigers. They were 1, you were 2. Now he's won it as 2-1. I'm not sure he gets the recognition of the coaching jobs that he has done, all probably because of the NCAA stuff, but he's a heck of a coach. Good morning.
Hey, thanks, Dave. I think if you talk to any coach that has to go up against him, they will tell you he is a very difficult guy to get your team ready to play. One, they do a tremendous job of guarding inbound passes. It's amazing how many turnovers they get from teams just trying to get the ball in under their own basket. And the other thing, they just play tremendous defense. They've always done that. All his teams have always played tremendous defense. And, now he's kind of adjusted to the outside shot and the three-point shot, and they've kind of blended that in. And, that's, as you know, for most of these teams, that's good and bad because the nights you're not hitting them, you really don't look like a very good basketball team. And the nights you're hitting them, you look unbeatable. But he's got enough defense that even on some of the nights when they're not hitting a lot of shots, they can still win a game. For example, the game that when Tennessee and Auburn played down at Auburn, I think most people went into that game thinking that game's going to be in the 80s. Well, suddenly neither team could hit a shot because the defense was so good. Now it's a 53-51 grinder. But he can win either way. He can win those grinders. He can win if it's a high-scoring game like it was at Alabama on Saturday. I just think he really adjusts. I just think he's one of the best coaches in the country. I've always thought that. And when we had a chance to see him up close when he was at Tennessee and all those games that, that when they went down to Austin, what is his first or second year, I guess, when they beat Texas down there, and then they beat Texas the next year in Knoxville, and Lofton hit that shot over Durant. And he just continued to win big games. And I think that's the mark of a really good coach, that the ones that can win, most coaches can win the games when it's a lopsided opponent. You're supposed to win those, but it's the really good coaches are the ones that win the games against ranked teams when maybe they're not supposed to win. And I think a lot of people didn't think Auburn might win that game Saturday against Alabama because Bama's so good on their home floor. But Auburn dominated that game. I mean, I was watching the second half, and you never really had a feeling that Alabama was going to win the game just because of how well Auburn played. And so I've always been very impressed with Coach Pearl.
I had that same sense on watching that game on Saturday, that there was no way that Auburn was going to lose the game. They were in total control. They had the best player on the floor in Broome. They got Cardwell. They got the great guard with the 2 last names. I mean, I forget his name at the moment, but he's outstanding too. He falls out of that game, I believe. But
number 10. Just remember number 10.
There you go, number 10. He's a good player. But you're a man of a million stories. So give me a good Bruce Pearl story.
I was at practice one day. Jordan Howell was playing back in those days. I guess that was Lofton, too, and those guys. And Coach Pearl wasn't very happy on how they were approaching practice. And he says, so you guys don't want to practice? Get on the line. And you got to make this in so many seconds, suicides. And you got 30 seconds. And so they didn't do it the first time. And they didn't do it the second time. And they didn't do it the third time. And now guys are starting to grab their shorts and hold their knees, and he gets them back on the line. And then they did it again, and they kept going. And I was sitting there, and I was thinking, I'm starting to feel sorry for these guys a little bit because, he's going to keep running them for the rest of the afternoon. And back on the line. Let's go. You got to make it. And you better make sure your teammate makes it. And he never lowered the amount of time on the clock. And so I guess maybe it was on the 9th or 10th time they finally made it. And he gathered everybody around. He said, here's a lesson. You made it on the 10th time. Why didn't you do it on the first time? And that was a message that I've always remembered that. If you got a chance to do it right the first time. Don't mess around and lollygag. And a lot of those times it was only one or two guys that didn't make time, but everybody had to run because of that. And the other thing he's done is he is so invested in the community. I can't remember one time I asked him to speak at a Boys and Girls Club or at a YMCA event or Big Brothers Big Sisters, because he knew if you were asking him, you weren't going to waste his time. This was something that was valuable. I mean, the people that kind of were around him and close to him. And it wasn't about, well, check with my secretary or let me get back to you. He would pull out his phone. He said, what's the date? What's the time? And I'd tell him, he said, okay, I've got on. If I don't have another conflict, then he'd look at his phone and he'd put it in his phone right there. And you didn't have to worry about him not showing up. I mean, if he put it in that phone, he was going to be there. And all the things he did, he's done all the outlet stuff and about raising money for cancer research, and it's just been remarkable what he's done. He still has some money here in Knoxville through one of the foundations they established, and of course he's doing great things at Auburn with that outlive and just raising money for cancer and research, and basically it's about getting screened. He wants people to get screened and make sure that you're healthy and don't think that cancer is not going to creep up on you, because it does, and it affects everybody's family. In your family, you probably have one person that down through the years that has been affected by cancer, and that's just the numbers. And so I had this little spot on my hip, and I was looking at it and went to the dermatologist, and they said, well, that's just a rash, and put this on it. So I went back later and put the rash on it, put some different medication on it, and it didn't go away. And so I was talking to Coach Pearl about it. Said, I got this rash. He said, get that checked. Go get it checked. I said, well, it's just a rash. He said, get it checked. I get it checked, and it's T-cell lymphoma.
Ooh, Lord.
Yeah, well, T-cell it's a blood cancer, and as long as you treat it, something else is going to get you. And so I treat it, and I do light treatments. But if Coach Pearl hadn't been adamant about me getting tested, I wouldn't have gotten tested, and it could be a lot worse than it is now. Wow. But that's just the way he is. I mean, he's a really caring guy. And
I'll tell you,
he's got his flaws. He's got warts like everybody else.
Sure.
But for the most part, he is really concerned about his players. He's concerned about his community, and I just think it's an amazing story that he went through what he did. At Tennessee, if he just would have told the truth to the NCAA, maybe got the slap on the wrist and taken his penalty, he maybe never would have left here, and who knows where Tennessee basketball would have been. But he's proven he can win any place he goes, and so it's amazing.
He's got another passion I appreciate. He's written op-eds in Zionist magazines pertaining to Israel, and I had a long talk with him in Maui this past, I guess it was Thanksgiving, and he's got some strong and really interesting ideas about it. And he's just a guy of passion all the way around. All right, let me talk about this SEC race now.
Right.
9 teams in the top 25. We've talked a little bit about this before, but I'm not sure I can remember 9, 3 of the top 4 in the top 25 this late in the year. And they're still saying 13 teams from that league, which would set a record, into the NCAA tournament. I got a feeling it might hold.
Well, I think there's some teams that have got some work to do if it's going to get to that. That's a lot. I think we all thought when they first came out with that. There are a couple of teams that LSU and South Carolina, they don't have a shot.
No.
But I think Arkansas still has work to do. I think Coach Calipari said the other night, we got to beat somebody. And they had a chance to win that game the other night and didn't do it. I think that Oklahoma, they lost that game I don't know if you saw the end of the Oklahoma-LSU game.
No, but they're not a tournament team in my mind. I haven't thought they were a tournament team all year.
But they've got a 5-point lead at home with 30 seconds to go, and they lost.
To a bad team.
They fouled a 3-point. Yeah, to a bad team. And they fouled a 3-point shooter. Then they threw the inbounds pass away, and suddenly LSU, I think they were even bewildered. They won that game. But I think Oklahoma has to win some games. They're saying that Vanderbilt's in. I still, Vanderbilt plays at Kentucky. I think they need to win a game like that. if they would have beaten Tennessee, if they would have held on and beaten Tennessee, that probably would have assured them a spot in the tournament because that would have been a huge quad one win for them. But they've got to beat somebody else. They've not been very good on the road. They're 1-5 now on the road in the league, and so they've got to win some. I think they've got to win some games down the stretch, and I think Georgia's got to win some games.
Is Florida, is Florida a top 3 team the way they have it?
Oh yeah, yes.
You think
so?
Yeah,
oh yeah, and they've got that Henglatten back, and that just gives them one more big guy inside. So I think when Florida is clicking and they've got their guards playing well, Clayton and those guys, I think they're really good. And so yeah, I think Florida. You know, they still might win the league. Who knows? But we'll see. And I think Florida will be a very dangerous team in the SEC tournament. It's one of those teams I don't think you really want to play because they're so balanced. They've got veterans. They've got size inside. Now Condon, I guess, is banged up a little bit. They've got to get him back, but they've got a lot of talent. I think they're really good.
You got the midweek off. You go to A&M. That'll be a College Station, right? That'll be a very interesting game because they're rated up there now.
Yeah, and I think Texas A&M. You know, they missed Wade Taylor for quite a stretch of the season, and I think they dropped a couple of games. If he would have been playing, because you know he gives you 20 points a night. Yeah. Where do you make up for that 20 points? But I think A&M. Buzz Williams' teams are always so physical, and this team is right up there. They guard you, they rebound, they offensive rebound, and then Wade Taylor can light you up from the outside. So I think Texas A&M is legit. I think they're really really good, and I think they might make some damage in the NCAA tournament because they're just a team that beats you up and they guard you and they make it really hard for you to run offense, and they've always done that under Buzz Williams.
Oh, Buzz is a physical guy. There's no question about that. Well, safe travels, and we will talk next Tuesday. Thank you, my friend.
Okay, Dave. Take care. Have a good weekend.
That's our guy, the voice of the Vols. That is Bob Kessling, and that'll do it for us today. Tomorrow, it's busy as always. Dennis Phillippe will stop by. Joe Dank on the business of sports, and, of course, Jason Munz on the Tigers. That's all tomorrow. Johnny Radio's next. Have a great day, everybody.
I know it's not spring yet, but it's close, and right now, it's the perfect time to start thinking